So this might not work, but I'm going to try it while I'm driving down the hill. Tell a little story. I got this van. My friend Kwai needed it driven across the country, so worked out. He gave it to me, and it's funny, I still look right way up, but if you're watching this on a computer, I'll look like weirdly coming out of the corner, but it's part of the game, right? This is dangerous. I'm just gonna hold it like I did before. Maybe I had the window down. I'm just gonna put it here on the side of the window and have one hand there, like a brother does when he's going down, when he's driving in the country. Arm on the window, yeah. So Kwai gave me this van to drive across the country. I spent about 10 hours cleaning it up over 3 days. Cleaned out the outside and the inside. He'd been living in it for a long time, and it was very reminiscent. It's funny, I thought of like my apartment, and I don't think my van ever got that dirty, but in my apartment, and in my bedroom when I was a kid, it's so easy for me to just let things get messy. And with a van that you're not even living all the time, my friend would drive around in this, but he wouldn't live in it all the time. He had a lot of just extraneous junk in here, papers and trash and food that he had bought at various points that, had been in here for 3 or 4 years past their expiration date, whenever it was he bought them. So yeah, it's not, no shame, as I've been saying to my friends. I'm like, no shame. I stayed with some guys in Ukiah that were from Indiana that I'd met back when I was taking care of Leo. They moved out to California from Indiana, and they thought, oh, we're in California, how exciting, but they were living in Lake County, which was kind of depressing for them and everyone else who lives there. Some people are just used to that kind of depression. So it was weird. I stayed with them, I cleaned the van, I did a run down to Santa Rosa to get a kombucha culture so that I could brew kombucha while I was driving, like I had in my van 14 years ago. The van I called V for Victory. A friend in California had given it to me. Small world. Some repetitious patterns aren't so bad, right? But I was after I left the guy's place in Ukiah, I went out to Ore Hot Springs, which was wonderful. And right past Ore Hot Springs was a old growth redwood grove called the Montgomery Grove, or Montgomery State Park, whatever. So after spending a full day at Ore Hot Springs, I slept in my van, the first night sleeping in the van in the redwoods. It was wonderful. And then I went hiking in the morning right where the van was parked, which was not where the trailhead was. So then I drove around and found the trailhead, and one of the guys I'd met at Ore Hot Springs said, oh yeah, you can hike it in like 3 hours. You can hike it in like 30 minutes. It's just a little loop. So I was like, oh, that doesn't sound so exciting. But I was in the forest for 3 hours. Because past the loop, around the loop, I just explored a lot of the trees and spent good time with them. And then south of the loop, you can continue exploring and driving around. So it was great, good fun. But then, I was thinking, well, maybe I'd spend another night and go to Ore Hot Springs again, But really, when I was heading back to the van, I really felt like, okay, we're done here. It's time to go south and see if I can see my friend Chad, or go back into the city and see my friend Carl, or actually, Carl and I had been talking about going to Yosemite. So it was Carl's birthday, and I was like, I'll go pick up Carl, spend the night with him, or just zoom off with him, and we'll go down to Yosemite. But it turned out Carl couldn't do that, and my friend Chad was still down in Guerneville, so I went down to visit Chad. Chad's a straight friend of mine that I've known. I met him in Italy in 2002. I've known him all those years. 15 years. Funny. Knowing people. So I spent the night in the van outside of Chad's house, and in the morning did some yoga with Chad and his friend, also named Carl, who was visiting. And was looking at some bear sites because I'm like, I'm in Guerneville. Maybe I can meet up with someone interesting here. And there was a fellow who was between Santa Rosa and Guerneville that I wanted to spend more time with. So I was like, maybe I can meet him for lunch or something, but he wasn't free to meet for lunch. So I was like, what am I going to do? Well, one of the people that I wrote responded to me, and I didn't recognize him, but it turned out he was somebody, part of a couple, that I stayed with when I was 19 years old in Denver, Colorado. I worked with them installing computers and Kaiser Permanentes all over the greater Denver area. And I was just like, holy shit, I haven't seen you guys in 20 years. And they were managing a retreat center up above Guerneville called Wildwood that people had talked to me about over the years, saying, you should go to Wildwood, you'd really like it there. They've been here for 11 years. So it's hilarious for me to think like, wow, I could have come up to Wildwood and met them, a decade ago. But instead I went to New York, so there we are. But I came up to visit them that very day, and I just stayed here. I parked the van at their house, and I just left it there. There was a very nice guy who was living at Wildwood who knew me from Tumblr and Facebook. And so we had a good time, as boys do, as men do. And I spent, was it 2 days ago, I spent 7 hours hiking around the trail system here, which was gorgeous. Doing some trail repair and making videos, and it was fun. Hiking, exploring, swimming in a creek, swimming in a river. But I just wanted to reflect on, again, I just feel so blessed and so fortunate. It was so nice to see these people from 20 years ago, and the attractions and fears that I had. I lived with them for 3 months, something like 3 months. The end of 97, early 98. And it was, similar to the kind of energy I was in then with my straight friends. There was a attraction triangle where one of them was very attracted to me and I was very attracted to the other one. And I remember those years in Denver, I'd gotten a CD of Derek Jarman's Blue, and I was reading a Clive Barker book. I think it was a Magica. That's what it's called. Which had a big metaphor for AIDS in it, and of course, Derek Jarman's Blue is all about dying of AIDS. And I listened to I had a Derek Jarman Blue CD, and I listened to that every night for weeks, if not months. And I would fall asleep to it, so I would get to different parts of it every night and fall asleep to it. That was back in a point when I would always listen to music to go to sleep at night. It made a huge impact on me. I was trying to tune into the older gay energy. Like this was a big part of gay culture. This whole, we're all dying of AIDS. This is the horror of dying of AIDS thing, and it was something that I really felt like I needed to be clear with, like understand what that energy was, because it's so. I was attracted to older generation gay men, and that was my time in Denver, was hanging out with these two guys, having a strange attraction discrepancy, and they had a bed and breakfast in Colorado Springs, so I'd go down to Colorado Springs with them. They told me about the cruising park in Denver called Cheeseman, which was weird. I'd never had that kind of car cruising scenario, and I would go in there and pick up people. One of the stories that sticks out in my mind, I don't remember the sex so much, but I remember, let me set this up a little bit better, that the job I was doing with these two guys was a night shift. After Kaiser Permanente would close, we would go in there and install these computer systems. So we'd get out at 3 or 4 in the mornings, if I remember correctly. And then I had some friends from Tucson, because I'd been living in Tucson before that, who lived up there, who had an apartment that was basically, anybody could go there who wanted to. I don't remember if anybody actually paid rent on it, but I do know that nobody had keys, that in order to get in there, you had to know how to pick a lock. So one of them gave me a lockpick set that he made out of street cleaning bristles and taught me how to pick, that kind of lock with the lockpicks he made me. So often I would get out of work and I'd go hang out with these guys because they were total night owls. These straight kids, not hippie, more like Avengers, End of the World, Gutter Punk. I mean, I remember one of the things we did for fun in Tucson was make Molotov cocktails and, explode them in the tunnels underneath the city. Anarchist cookbook kind of guys, if that means anything to you. So one night I was hanging out with these fellows, and then I left them and I went to walk around Cheeseman Park, and somebody picked me up, and I wasn't pretending in any way, but this was also pretty recently after I'd returned from living in England, and I still often would have a mumble mouth that would end up sounding like a little British, maybe somehow. I don't know what I really sounded like back then, but it was something worse than Dick Van Dyke, I don't know. And it would just slide around, and it wasn't something I did on purpose. But I had done it a lot while I lived in England. I was trying to talk more like they were speaking in a general, there's so many different accents there, so it was more like working out their phonemes. And this guy rolled down the window and he said, "Hello, good morning" to me, and I responded, and he said, "Are you British?" And just the mood I was in, and who knows if I was stoned or what, I was like, yeah. So I just made up this whole character, fake name and all these things, and went home with him and had sex, and then he took me out for breakfast, and the whole time we're just talking, and he's like, "It's so exciting to talk to somebody from England, and I was just making up all this shit. And then I felt really guilty. He gave me his number, but I never called him again because I felt really guilty. I lied to him, pretending to be someone else. Anyway, that's a derivation. I lived with him for 3 or 3.5 months. My grandfather died. I don't remember if the job finished or if it was that my grandfather died and I had to go home for the funeral. But I know that I shaved my beard before I went. I may have cut my hair back too, but I know I shaved my beard because my great aunt, who was Ukrainian, would not see me if I had a beard because she hated the beard so much because of Russians, which I've encountered that with Polish people too. Beards make you look Russian. So I shaved my beard. I think I flew home, and I think that's the last time I saw them 20 years ago, or early 98 would have been 20 years, so almost 20 years ago. So here we are, I see them up here, and it was just so nice to be able to sit and talk with them and cuddle with them and just feel this, the weird judgments and fears that I had as a kid, being able to see them through the lens of, I don't know, my adultness, all the things I've learned over the years, and the compassion training, and I guess that just made my heart flower even more compassion. The view up here is just astoundingly gorgeous. I'll say I'm going down, 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 down. The view is astoundingly gorgeous. And they've been up here 11 years. They left Colorado and lived in Seattle for a few years, and then came down here and got this job, and have been really making it work. And they feel like they're just going to retire up here and live up here, and it really just clicked in immediately. I wanted a gay community I could live at that felt healthy. And I don't know if this is a community as much. They have volunteers that change out pretty regularly, and they don't seem to have any community. They have staff meetings once a week, but it doesn't seem that they have community programs or functions besides that. So I've already put on my wish list, well, if I live up here, then when I live up here, I'm gonna have daily meditations and weekly yoga or qigong classes, and I just, I bought into some land a few years ago in Tennessee with this fantasy of I can be a teacher and I can have these classes, I can start some sex wizardry school. And Wildwood's really good for that because for I think a decade or so it was owned by Body Electric, which is kind of a sex wizardry, it's a tantra kind of thing. So I could absorb a lot of that information and then start my own kind of classes based around that. There's a bicycler going up this long hill. So not necessarily based around Body Electric, but based around people who are interested in having a deeper, more intimate, more holistic sexual connection with people. Because that's what I want, and I think only by teaching it will I become it, or by helping foster a community of it will I become it. And I don't know, but it's interesting because it's right above Guerneville, and Guerneville's this holiday destination for gays, and it has been for a long time. And what do gays do when they usually go on holiday, or when they're just trying to relax? They get fucked up and they try to fuck. It's just like, let's drink a lot of alcohol and then find someone to have sex with. There's nothing wrong with that. We've all done it a lot, and it's kind of tedious, and it's an endless whirlpool. Some people actually have related or gotten boyfriends from getting drunk and picking up people at a bar and everything. It does happen, but I don't really think of it as it's not the reality I want to spend any more time in. So it's interesting, the Wildwoods above Guerneville, and Guerneville's this like party space. So it's interesting that a lot of gay people come up here, and I'm sure I know that the one time I was at Lazy Bear, I spent most of my time with some guy who did a lot of shaman work and child psychology work, and he wasn't somebody who just wanted to party. He wanted love, and he wanted a deeper connection. His name was Sandy. I don't remember his last name right now. Haven't seen him since. All the people we pass in life, we miss, we move by. Sometimes we get to see them again. I just feel so blown away that I got to spend time with these guys after all these years. And there was this, there's a special type of familiarity or open-hearted affection with people that you know from 20 years ago, even if you weren't. I wouldn't say either of us we didn't become lovers or anything, but there was a type of love that was carried, a friendship and affection. I was really young for me. I was 19. I don't know. It's just really cool, and it was so beautiful up there. Walking in the forest. The forest smelled so good. It's like things I want to remember about it. The forest smells so good. There's so much bay laurel up there, and madrone, and manzanita, and pine, and redwood. Oh, it's such a beautiful forest. And a little stream that ran through it that had a big, beautiful piece of red jasper in it, and it's just so nice to cuddle and swim. The swimming pool, the hot tub. And fascinating with different people who came up. I worked one day in the kitchen and feel the kind of stress response that was happening, and just being at peace with it, and just trying to stay grounded and stilled and centered. And there was a lot of sadness that came up yesterday, and some people said, well, it's because you're probably pretty empathetic, and who knows what all these people here that are here for the workshop, what kind of energies are going around that you're tuning into, or the people I was working with. I don't know. I got really sad, and a part of me started buying into the sadness, and then a part of me was like, oh, notice you're sad. That Vipassana kind of training. They talk about the emotional landscape as kind of like the weather. There's nothing you can do about it, but it does kind of affect everything. It doesn't mean you need to really buy into the depression of a rainy day, though. You can just be like, oh, it's a rainy day, so this is how I'm going to feel. All the emotions are going to turn into this gray heaviness just because that's what the weather's like. So it felt really weird like that yesterday, and I ended up going for a walk, and it just felt so much lighter. Going for a walk in the mountains, being able to see all the beauty, it's such a blessing. So, immediately upon coming up here, I was like, wow, if I get out of New York City, I can come here. I can come here. This is open to me. There's people here who think of me as friends, old friends of mine that I can stay with and be part of a community and work and have, duties. You don't really get paid so much, but room and board, so you don't have to worry about money. Lots of free time to walk in the woods, do yoga, qigong, meditation. And I think with a little bit of effort of contributing to the community, or have meditation sangha, so that kind of supports us in the process. And one of the guys I talked to was like, I don't do yoga very much on my own, but when I'm with people, and I haven't done a full hour and a half or 2 hour yoga session since I left New York. I've just done little bits. So it's nice to think of oh man, I could live in this place where we have naked yoga, and that it might allow me to start my own type of programming, bring people up and teach the things I'm interested in teaching and learning. I mean, I was thinking I taught this blowjob work class at Brighton Bush that somebody contacted me and said they were really interested in having a one-on-one training session, which is, I would love to do that. But then I was thinking like, wow, if I made this whole program, it could be about how do you make love to yourself, how do you make love with someone else, and going through various levels. I'd probably have to hire other people, but like starting with kissing. How do you kiss properly? How do you frottage well? How do you do not breath control in an S&M way, which I don't do, but breathing together, which is very interesting to me. Eye gazing, which is interesting to me. And then of course anal sex and oral sex, and I don't know. I mean, the whole thing was like, oh, it was very attractive. And teaching some types of massage, body work. I don't know. It filled me with all this inspiration because I did buy into some land in Tennessee a few years ago, dreaming that's what I was going to do, and the whole thing just seems impossible to me now. So it's nice to feel like, oh, there's this option. There's this option. And yet another opportunity in life blossoms. Guess what can happen? So I've left, I'm back in Guerneville now on these back roads, and some pretty good Halloween decorations. And I think I'm going to go have a burger and some ice cream and maybe some pie. And then head down to Santa Cruz, where a new adventure will unfold, where I'm going to work in a kitchen at a dance ritual, Native American dance ritual, like a ghost dance type thing, healing, which is another strange manifestation that I just had this little like, oh, I wish I could go to that. I kind of feel like I'd like to do that again. And then it all just kind of fell into place that's where you should be. It's where you have to be, because this van has to be there. And I got the van, so I have to be there with the van, and it just feels nice. I was working in the kitchen here. I'm going to be working in the kitchen there. Yeah, it's nice to talk about this. I made a video a few days ago that I was just all sad. And it's so nice to share a video where I just feel grateful, and neither of them are more true than the other, I suppose, but I just feel grateful and happy and I guess excited of the obligations, the opportunity for service. I spent the morning making salve, which was really fun. Anyway, thank you so much. Everyone and all of us and all of you and all of me. Thank you so much. My heart feels very open and cracked open and warm and loving. I love you. I'll stop at this stop sign and stare at you for a second.